As you all know, we are getting close to the release of Tempest, and before that happens, I want to create a short PvP class tier list so that in the future we can come back to this and see how things were before the new class. By the way, I played all of the classes except Wizard pretty recently, so my memory is quite fresh about how each class performs. And before we move on, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I will be releasing a bunch of content for the new class, which might be helpful for you. Alright, let's start with the S tier. I think we can put Demon Hunter on this one. I'm not 100% sure because of staying alive might be an issue for Demon Hunter, but that really high burst damage creates a spot for Demon Hunter on the S tier in my opinion. Currently, Demon Hunters can take down players that are higher resonance than themselves pretty quickly. I mean, that's always been the case, but current strafe builds are terrifying to play against. Of course, we are not going to leave Demon Hunter alone in the S tier. I think Necromancer have a spot here as well. Actually, nothing really changed for Necromancer. Even though there are some new essences, most used builds are revolves around corpse lance and damage over time set items. I have this class on the S tier because they kinda counter Demon Hunters and can deal with couple of them at the same time, which really helps out their team. Don't get me wrong, Necromancer doesn't have as much burst damage as Demon Hunter, but they can out-survive them. I'm not going to add any other class to the S tier, even though you might say Blood Knight and Barbarian deserves a spot here, but I think they are slightly following from behind. The difference is not huge, but still I will put them into A tier. First, let's talk about Barbarian. The main reason they are considered good is the new builds that revolve around Chained Spear Pull. Barbarians with these builds become the main interrupters in the battlegrounds. Especially when you add server-sided latency and rubber banding, they can pull you from a good distance, which is annoying to deal with, and they deal decent damage as well. Since they have Undying Rage, they can stay alive for a good while and push or defend the idol. I think that's enough to place them in the A tier. Next, let's touch on Blood Knight. They are still really good. They deal a high amount of damage, have high mobility, and have good sources for damage reduction, so they are not the easiest to kill. Against the high burst damage of Demon Hunters, their effectiveness has gone down a little, but they are still really strong and needed to clear enemy backlines. Next, we have Crusader. Before the recent nerfs, they were on top of this list, but now they are at the edge of the B tier. However, I will keep them in the A tier because their role is the same, being the best support for PvP. Before the nerfs, their damage output was really good too, and now that it's gone, this class is back to its original position. It is really hard to place Crusader below this tier because they are still one of the best classes that can keep their team alive and buff them. A good Crusader is always appreciated, even though it doesn't show in the stat sheet after the games. Alright, now we are in the B tier, and I think this is a good spot for Wizard. Well, there are a couple of ways to play Wizard nowadays. The first one is the control builds that have a pretty huge area of effect, which is good but kinda lost their effectiveness after Crusader numbers went down. The other one is the laser builds with very high damage output. Both have the same problem. You are a very easy target to focus on, and staying alive is a nightmare for Wizard. Your damage is not as high as Demon Hunters, and you are less mobile than Demon Hunter. I think that summarizes the current state of Wizard. Lastly, we have Monk. With the updated version of this class coming into the game as Tempest, I'm not really sure if this class is going to see daylight again. A few weeks ago they had their last mealtime with the bugged legendary items, but nowadays they have returned to their old position. Well, we never know. Maybe they will bring this class to life after a while, but for now we are putting it in the rest in peace tier. By the way, there are some good Monk players that are performing quite well with the class, but we are talking in general, as you can guess. Well, that was all. Like I said at the beginning, I want to create this list before the new class release so we can come back to it and take a look after a few months. Thanks for tuning in and take care.